Hi, Tom.
Hey there.
So I already let Ron and Lee know that Chris won't be joining us tonight.
Right.
And then just a friendly reminder to adjourn by 6:55 at the very latest.
Correct.
So we can get on planning commission and I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Okay. I sent over earlier this afternoon. I took what we had posted from previous weeks and worked it up. Does it look like we're moving in the right direction?
I think so. I like to make things as short as possible.
Yeah.
Whenever I get a resume that's 2 pages, I rip it up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about 2 sides of the same?
I rip it up.
Okay, fair enough.
If it's a page, I only will deal with the resume if it's 1 page. If you can't tell me what's going on in 1 page, I don't want you working for me.
Okay.
So I think if anything, we need to try to, make it shorter, but I think it got most of the stuff in there. And my big things are, figure out which pieces we need to annex, figure out what codes and zoning we need to change in order to be more with the times,
right.
And make specific changes like what Ron was saying last week. If it's a 35-foot height limit, let's make it a 45-foot height limit.
Mm-hmm.
And even make exemptions for roofs that aren't flat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I personally don't like flat roofs. They look like prisons.
Yeah. Yeah, I walk around Boulder with looking very differently now.
Yeah.
Since that discussion.
Right. And then I really would like to put something in there about the building that's at the southeast corner of the RTD lot. I mean, it's been sitting there for 10 years, just molding. And the town paid to put it there, and now it's just molding.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other goal, I think, for me is to actually do something that makes sense with the community center instead of, doing all this cosmetic bull crap. To make it actually work as a building that doesn't flood constantly. So, I mean, and then we need to also decide what we eventually want downtown, and whether we want buildings right up to the line and a walking mall, or whether we want, traffic still going through there. And then as an addendum to that, what we want across the street at the visitor center, whether we want to have a town square like they have in Mexico.
Yeah, now that I think about that, I didn't put any of those last 2 things into what I wrote this afternoon. So I kind of missed it there. Miranda, what do you think is the best way to go? Because we have to get a few, I guess we have to get closure tonight on exactly what our goals are in time for September or for March 30th. Yes.
Yes. I mean, but really, so March 30th is getting your peers' feedback. And so.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It's not ready. It's not going to the public quite yet. And so there's still some time to work through it. We just want to have something as close to your goals and objectives that you're landing on, so your fellow Envision peers can weigh in.
Okay. I would have marked things up on the Google Drive, but in the interest of version control, I just pulled from there and then put it into the document that I sent to each of you earlier. Do you guys have that open? Should we just walk through it?
I'm going to try to open it on my computer. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's see here.
I'm sorry, Tom, but I don't have the ability to do that. And,
Okay, gotcha.
while Lee is doing that, I just want to say this, short and sweet, that I am different from everybody else. I like specific goals. When Lee says a goal is raise the height limit by 10 feet, maybe 15 if they're going to use a peaked roof. Because here's what's happened to me personally. A document gets generated with generalities, and then it becomes a political weapon for somebody that wants to use it. But if you have a specific goal, very specific goal, you can't use that as a political weapon. But if you have some generality, then somebody can say, well, you didn't conform to that, and that's their opinion. And it sometimes it carries weight. And I just am, so I'm a specifics guy. And just so you know, I'm a guy that wants to fix that house on the corner of the RTD lot. And 4 years ago, in the middle of a blinding snowstorm, another guy and I, Danny Martin, went over there with a 40 by 40 foot tarp, threw it over the building and covered the building so the damn thing wouldn't get deteriorated by the roof was in such bad shape the water was just going right into the place. So I'm really interested in seeing an objective that we tell the town, fix it, make it useful, do something with it, not in 5 years but next year. And there's a lot of interest in it. I talked to Jesse Ansnari about it. I'm sorry I mispronounced her name a little bit. And I have a meeting scheduled with her to talk about it next week. So I think that's an eyesore. I think it's an embarrassment. And I think we should do something about it. And I think we should make it one of our, maybe if we have 5 primary goals, or I don't know, I think that was the max we were going to have. I'd put that one in the top 2.
Okay. I tend to agree. I mean, I mean, that I thought about this and it's just like Ron says, it's an eyesore.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Nederland paid me money to lay out that foundation. Just like they paid me money to do a $10,000 survey on the community center, and then they didn't use it.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking the government section here. I've got it up on my computer.
It's on the screen here too.
We should you know, I think it's fine. That's all looks good. The economic development vision, I'd like to see some of these things shortened if possible.
Sure.
So you know, let's see. Like the third bullet where it says Nederland will update its town code to better support its vision of thriving, sustainable commercial economy that prioritizes the needs of the citizens, including, I mean, I think if we just took that third one and said, you know, update town code and zoning specifically.
Okay.
You know, and then for the ADU, update ADU development rules to be specific. You know, and then encourage housing density in the downtown area.
Okay.
You know, partner with landowners to to replace infrastructure as necessary. And then let's see, what's the other one?
Oh, that's right. I completely missed that one. We talked about that. Whenever something gets developed, that we're going to develop or take care of the infrastructure at that time.
Right, and I think that that's a wise thing to do, especially. I think that the town staff, if we could just put I have a copy of the Nederland zoning map. I mean, we could take it over to Chris and Pelletier and say, okay, where are you getting the most? Every time there's a water line break, we could put a pin there, you know? And then over a period of a couple of years, we could figure out where the worst, and we already kind of know where the worst ones are.
Yeah.
Where the worst stuff is. The newer stuff is going to be less. I mean, where I live in Sunnyside, I mean, all the utilities are only 30 years old.
Yeah.
But downtown, I mean, those utilities are, 80, 100 years old.
So it probably sounds like we should probably work with, what's Chris Pelletier's group called?
The Public Works Department.
Yeah, work with Public Works Department to identify most frequently failing infrastructure and target for replacement.
Yeah, that's a good goal.
Yeah.
And then I think the last bullet you have on here, as our town develops and grows, we leverage unique assets, creeks, parks, walkable downtown, the target of an investment, modern infrastructure. Okay, we have that. The next goal would be to, make Nederland more walkable, or connect paths where possible. I like short and sweet. But I like the government ones. I think that's all fine. But I think on the economic stuff, and I'm available the whole week to go back and forth on this. I think Chris would be a better person to talk about the government.
He didn't have anything to. He offered no changes, so I think he's good with it.
I like it. Tom, I was going to say is if you feel like you want more time, I need your kind of complete stuff by Monday. So you have the opportunity to reconnect or work offline and then just send me your final document if that's what you choose to do as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I also wanted you to know, Tom, I don't know if you've been attending the Board of Trustees meetings, and Lee, maybe you have as well, but the town is in the process of finalizing the update to the master infrastructure plan, which will address and is addressing all those things you're talking about, like what infrastructure do we need to be replacing, what are our priorities, how much is the cost, what grant opportunities are out there, that sort of thing. So just wanted to remind you guys.
Knowing that, Karen, does it make sense to leave it in as a goal, or is that something we've already checked off?
I think you leave it in as a goal, because even, master infrastructure plans almost become, you need to keep updating them because things are changing all the time. And even though there's a lot of goals that are listed in there, the idea, we're talking about, $20 million or more worth of improvements between wastewater, water, the streets, etc. So
you're absolutely right.
I think keeping it front and center is always a good idea.
Good. Okay, excellent. Lee, I'm sorry I cut you off. You were saying something.
No, I'm good. I think we're pretty close. I mean, I think if it was me, I would have specific goals, just like I said, zoning, specific zoning and code changes to facilitate commercial and sustainable economic, vitality. Fix the damn house at the southeast corner of the RTD site.
When I was taking a walk this afternoon, I talked a lot about a spectacular natural setting and all this other assets we got. The history, it came to me that we completely overlooked that. But essentially, does that building give us an opportunity to? Could it be a foundation for a town square? You guys have thought about this more than I have. What are your thoughts? Could it be an anchor?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I've looked at it structurally and everything else, and I think this is one of these deals where you totally disassemble it, number every piece in it, put a substructure in that is going to stay for a long time, and then reassemble it and go through the process, do a video while you're doing it, and then you have the exterior and you have what it looked like, because you're not going to be able to take that building because of the deterioration now. and really repair it to where it's going to be significantly historically valuable. And
Got
that's
it.
been done in a lot of cases. It costs twice as much to do that,
Of course.
but slapping the thing back together is not the way I see it happening. So I just wanted to put that 2 cents in. Thank you.
And you might actually be able to get some grant money for that.
Yeah. But let's put it into a bigger context. What role does it, I mean, obviously we're thinking about it. We see it every day. It's in our face. What's the bigger role for that?
Well, I'd like to see it be used for restrooms for RTD passengers, because RTD is going to put another level of parking over the lot that they have now. It's already on the drawing boards.
Yeah.
And if you made restrooms out of it where your RTD card allowed you to get in, that would be a function, because it's very small. It'd be very hard to run any kind of business out of there. And then you could display the history. And while people might be waiting in a little ante room to see it, they could read the history of it. And it'd be functional, because the RTD customers now are using the restaurants, and it's ticking off the restaurant owners. And so I think everything would work out better. But again, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
So they're using the restrooms at the visitor center? Is that what they're doing?
They're using, no, at the restaurants, Kathmandu and Ned's and Blue Moon and right down the street. You know, you get a bus ride up the canyon bouncing all the way. You got to use the restroom when you get off the bus, and there isn't anything there.
Oh boy.
Brings up a point. It's not necessarily our subcommittee to talk about RTD and transportation, but it does bring that bus does bring people to town. Do we want to take a position on it, or what do we want? And is that our purview or somebody else's?
Well, I think even if it's somebody else's, I think that it should be a goal economically for Nederland to actually make something of that thing, instead of it just deteriorating into a pile of junk.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about transportation in general, but I think, essentially we could use that structure as a way of connecting history and transportation, or something like that. Basically, it's a way of teaching a lesson while solving an eyesore problem, and something that's dangerous.
The Historical Society have a lot of input on that, and I don't know, the town owns it, so it's definitely town property, but it's not on their.
Are you saying the town owns that building?
Yes, I don't know. I thought they did.
My understanding, talking to Kayla, and this was back when she was the president a couple of years ago. My understanding is that actually belongs to the Nederland Area Historical Society, which is why the town has not been involved in it. Miranda, do you know differently?
Oh, that's accurate.
Okay.
Well,
okay, so I'm wrong.
The town paid me to do the survey to put it where it is. It was the town.
Okay.
It wasn't the Historical Society.
Yes,
Okay.
that was a private-public partnership, working with them to help them achieve their goal. And at that time, they did have a plan, and they were going to renovate it. So just FYI.
Okay. Okay. It's called the Bryant House, I guess, huh?
Yes.
Good. Oh, thanks for. Is that you, Miranda, that's typing?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think you nailed it. Ron, as a developer, what do you think the interests of the development community are represented here, or does it need to be sharpened a bit?
I didn't quite understand you, Tom.
Do these goals for underdevelopment reflect what needs to be done? You talked about being specific and measurable and simple and understandable, so it can't be weaponized. Did we capture that here so far?
Unfortunately, Tom, I can't read it, and what I'd like to do is talk to you maybe tomorrow. I've been so busy, I haven't really had a chance to keep up with this as I should have as a committee member, and I apologize for that.
No
But
problem.
if I could talk with you maybe late tomorrow afternoon, 4:35, somewhere there, and go over
Yeah.
some of these things with you, I'd love to.
Good. Let's plan on it. I'll reach out to you.
Great. Thank you very much.
I like that it says partnering with landowners to develop specific, fair, non-nebulous rules for commercial and residential development. That's good.
Great. Okay, then we can call that nailed.
I think that's nailed. I think
Okay.
that the other one, updating ADU development rules for downtown and in residential areas, that's nailed. That's a good
Yep.
one.
Great.
I also think increasing comfortable housing density by considering both square footage and number of units for residential development, that's fine also.
Good.
And then I think, let's see. I think one of them, the last bullet says, as our town develops and we grow, we leverage our unique assets, creeks, parks, walkable downtown trails and walkways, public spaces, rights of way, and setbacks with targeted investment, modern infrastructure, and functional design. I mean, I like all that, but I think I would just say maximize path connection that allows for walks and trails near public spaces or something like that.
Great.
And then let's see. I would love to see, a height limit, the height limit for the downtown area just increased from, 35 feet to 50 feet.
Should we put that in, or that's pretty prescriptive? Do we, is that something we should put in at this level, or is it?
I'd like to see you put something like that in, yes, because
Okay.
then it's unequivocal. That's what you're recommending, not that it'll ever happen.
Okay.
I mean, I think that we want to get what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get feedback from the community, and I think that if we say something like that, I mean, I would just as soon say 100 feet just to get people freaked.
You'll get a reaction.
Yeah, to get a reaction. But I think that right now it's 35 feet, as I understand. I think saying 50 feet would get you what you want from the public, and I think 50 feet is reasonable, because then you can put a 3-story building with a decent roof on there.
Okay, so that would get you 3 stories plus a real roof.
A real roof.
Okay. Then I think that's a desirable goal, and it also accomplishes the objective of stirring some serious conversation and coming up with something we can agree on.
All right, now I have one thing to say. I've very carefully read over the design code in the last week several times.
Yeah.
And the design code is designed to keep anybody from building anything other than what is exactly like what is there now, which is a disincentive to do anything. So something has to be done to the design code to eliminate those factors, or nothing will ever happen. I guarantee it. That design code was put in there, and if you read it and read it carefully, to be sure nothing got developed.
Where did that design code come from? Karen, can you any history there?
Yeah, the town hired a consultant and was instructed by the people who hired him to give them what the design code says. And then the design code was not passed until sometime later, and a 1-page ordinance passed the entire design code. And the thing has created some significant problems, which I'm involved in right now. And I'd sure like to see that not happen to somebody else ever.
So Ron, does that apply just to the central downtown business district, or how does it
Yeah,
work?
pretty much. Yeah. I
Okay.
think it's the CBD but I'm not sure whether it's a general business also.
So essentially, it's tight enough that it's almost impossible to take an existing structure and alter it.
Well, you can, but the existing structures, like Lee said, were built 100 years ago when concrete wasn't worth a damn. I mean, nobody knew how to mix it. The quality of the construction of the buildings on First Street, my buildings, is terrible, and they're maintenance nightmares. Every day I'm up there fixing something.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So
Can I just ask a clarifying question of Ron? Ron, are you talking about the design standards, which are just basically recommendations, but not a part of code? Or are you talking about the sections of code that do actually call out brief design standards such as the subdivisions?
Talking about the one that when I made a presentation to the planning board of a new building with a reasonable facade, they said blanket as a general statement, it doesn't meet the design code, go away. So I'm not sure which document.
I actually think that might have been the design standards. And the only reason why I want to put it out there is that there are design standards that were adopted, which are more recommendations. And then there is language, though, in the code for certain developments, like a subdivision, do call out some design standards that need to be met. So maybe it's just something you want to collectively research together to decide which battle you want to take on or which one is most important.
Yeah,
okay.
I put something in that basically said that we were going to look at, or try and look at the downtown commercial district holistically instead of property by property. Maybe I need to tighten that one up a bit.
Well, and also you need to let new restaurants have rooftop dining, things like that. I mean, make it so they can have functional solar panels and a rooftop dining too. I mean, I can't remember what it was because there have been so many things that I've been involved in the last 3 weeks that I'm just, my mind is sort of befuddled at this point. But I did. And so that's why I said I wanted to talk to you offline about it too.
Yeah, I'm delighted. I'm looking forward to it, Ron, because the only thing I've seen of you is besides what we've done here is presentations at council, and that's kind of one-sided.
Yeah.
But I'd love to get your perspective. Tomorrow we'll do that. But,
great. Thank you very much, Tom.
Okay, so Lee.
Okay, so I think we've got our bullets for economic, and I'm also I'd love to talk to you about it more offline. Also, maybe Thursday or Friday.
Sure.
One of the other things, I mean, I don't know how you do this in municipal government vision, but I am really just sick to death of minority governance in Netherlands, and I really think that the Planning Commission, I think, in a lot of ways, has become an oversight commission instead of a planning commission. And I'd love to pull their teeth, and I'd love to pull the teeth of the minority people that make a big stink. And then the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees just goes along with whoever's making the biggest stink. I'm sick to death of it. I'd like the Planning Commission to have no power at all. The Board of Trustees has the power, and the Planning Commission can't hold back. Like for example, this parking thing. In my mind, Ron owns the whole downtown, and he's got parking there, and it's free now, and he wants to make it paid parking. It's the same use. It's parking, whether it's free or the same amount of dirt's coming off the frickin' lot. The
Mhm.
same amount of cars are going to be in there, whether it's free or paid. I'd like to see the planning commission have no say at all on it.
Mhm.
I'd like to
Yeah.
see it go right to the board.
Okay. Yeah. Under government, I think that's kind of why I was talking about having instead of a statutory government, having a little more local control. But is there something that says that going forward, that the planning commission to town council needs to be the path that everything goes?
Well, I don't know the best way to do it, but personally,
Right.
I think that, I mean, in my opinion, after sitting through the planning commission for the last several months about this parking, I mean, Public Works complains about how much more dirt's going to come off there. I don't know where they're getting that. Dirt is dirt, whether it's free or paid.
What's the issue? I don't follow.
Well, their Public Works complains about if it's a paid parking lot, then we have to have all kinds of catch basins and all this other stuff to take care of the dirt. Well, I mean, first of all, if you're in a Public Works department, that's what you deal with is dirt.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if they're not willing to do that, I think we should get new people for it. Secondly, I really don't see why they're involved at all in this. It's not a change of use.
Mm-hmm.
It's parking now. It's parking, whether it's paid or free. It's parking.
Karen or Miranda, anything
they
that
shouldn't
you
have
can,
any
from
say
your
at all.
perspective? Because I'm not sure. I haven't watched much of this.
I don't think you should put them on the spot, Tom, and I'd like to say
Okay.
something.
Yeah,
Okay,
and we
fair
have a hearing coming. So.
And this was
Okay.
really a legal determination, and so
Understood. Okay. Okay. Yeah. In under goals, I've been trying to put some things in that make sure that things reflect the needs of the community, as opposed. I didn't specifically talk about the vocal minority, but yeah,
Well,
I think
this is one of the reasons early on I said, why don't we have a goal that if there's a development that is liked by the community be allowed to vote on it? Because I mean, I really was incensed when during one of these hearings, some woman said, well, Mr. Mitchell's deaf, so he can't hear the dumpsters being dumped. And but that creates a lot of noise in the area. And I thought, yes, I can. I have hearing aids. And this is the kind of criticism I get, and I'm sick of it. So if,
yeah, I have one in too. Then I think, Ron, you hit on something that is worthwhile being a goal. That basically, if the community can get behind a development, the community can vote it. The community has the power to vote it in.
I would love that, because someday that somebody will do something that the community really wants as a community, not a bunch of people who are biased and make a lot of noise and they get their way because they come and scream and yell. And
Miranda, where would this? Is there anything? Do we have an existing one that could be crafted to reflect that, or do you think it needs to be something new? Because I agree with my colleagues here.
We can make it. Do you want to do it something new and then?
Yeah, and then I think I'm going to have to trim it. I can tell, but
I wasn't taking notes as you were discussing this, so you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd say something effective. That development that the community gets behind can be voted in by the community, or something like that. But then let's capture it that way. It's going to have to be tuned because it has to fit within the confines of, as you were talking about, legality and process. But let's capture it as a goal, and then I'll need to work with it some more, I can tell.
Again, Tom, this is something
You
I'd like
want
to
to
talk
say
about.
something along the lines of a development that falls within a certain range of acres or whatever, the scope meets a certain criteria, would go to the voters
Yeah,
for weigh-in or for
for
determination,
approval
for
yeah.
approval? Yeah,
or ratification. But Ron, sorry I cut you off there.
because I don't know if very small developments would even want to go to a vote, because it's
Yeah.
expensive to have an election, and I guess that would be my other question. Would the
Yeah,
You'd
developers?
have to have it coincide with, or I would recommend it coincide with a general election, having a special election, unless the developer wanted to pay for the total special election, that'd be fine. But I think you would want to say it could go to a normal.
Ron,
Yeah.
are you saying the developer though should pay for that portion of the election?
Yes, I am.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Well, and you could even do it in a way where I think a lot of times elections, there's other ways to do it. So you could advertise, let's say that you advertised that people could go to the library over the next month and weigh in on what is being proposed, like for the downtown. And so it wouldn't necessarily need to be an election. You could advertise that, okay, we're talking about a town square. Do we have town support? Do we have support of the people in the town to do that? Go to the library, put your name. I mean, we have a list of all the registered voters in NED, and cast your ballot in the next month, and it could be the same way for downtown. Which development do you like downtown? Do you want a downtown walk? Does this public support a downtown walking mall, or do they support more a wider boulevard with parking? And let people weigh in. Give them a month to go to the library and cast their vote. And,
well, if it's a vote that counts, Lee, that's fine. I put copies of my proposal in the library for a year, and the librarian at the time, who's no longer there, told me that the vast majority that looked at it supported it, and there was no support from the public officials.
Well, you just have to think about what he's suggesting, which is it's a great way to get some information and some feedback, but it's still random. It's not scientific, and it's not going to count legally like a vote. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying, how much weight are you looking for? What are you looking for here? It's not scientific though. It's just random.
I agree, and I think it would be a great thing to do as a precursor to a general election. That gets the information out. You put up 3 displays and say, do you like this? Do you like that? Do you like this? And then you go forward with it, and you let the electorate vote in what they've said they like, and that I think that both would work. And it'd be a long process, but it would certainly not allow the naysayers to have the final say.
Yay!
I was looking this afternoon at downtown redevelopments that have worked in towns our size, and almost every one of them says that the community, it has to come from the community if it's ultimately going to be successful. They just went through scores of things that flopped because people didn't get behind it. I'm concerned about one thing. We've talked for quite a while about a town square, and I even had a dream about that after one of these meetings. And yet we don't have it in here or anything about a town square. Do we want to make that explicit?
It should be put in there, definitely.
Yeah. So I think that's what we probably need to do. Something to the effect of Netherland builds community around a central town square that brings the community together.
Agreed.
And one thing I'll just say, Tom, and Ron can talk more to this, is that, Ron has proposed the idea of shutting down parts of First Street and then creating that almost like a walking mall. And
Yes.
so the conversation has been percolating over
Right.
time. And so that's potentially an option, a way to kind of create that gathering space that you're thinking of.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think if we make the goal of a town square is, and then, from what both Ron and Lee were saying, there's many different versions of what that town square will look like. And I think it needs to be popularly supported. We think it's a good goal. We think it's worth putting on paper. I welcome the debate for what this thing looks like. And in the end, the only one that's going to be supported is the one that is thoroughly vetted by the majority of the people.
Downtown Colorado is run by Catherine Carell, who's really an amazing person, and that organization helps downtowns all over Colorado, and she does a wonderful job. And she brought some architects in 4 or 5 years ago who actually did for free random designs for for a town square in front of town hall. And I thought they were great. And I also want to say, I don't think redevelopment of downtown in my area is exclusive of a town square. I think they would complement each other tremendously. I don't think they'd be competitive.
And of course, my vision of it, and I have the map, and I don't know if I sent it to y'all, but I did send the map of the path along the north side of the creek. I mean, I'm less high on that these days, if we're going to have a more walkable First Street, but I do have a map that shows the town parking lot, and so there's two, and I'll send that to everybody. There's two versions in my mind. The one is the south half of the lot being a town square going down to the creek, and the other is the whole thing being a town square.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two ideas. And if you have that, then you've got a spot where people can go and they can go down, they can enjoy the creek, they can enjoy the whole downtown area. I mean, it would anchor that whole part of town, and whether it's the whole or half, I think that's where you get people's feedback at the library. And I also think that that you could write an ordinance that said that if you got a majority of the registered voters saying that they supported a certain thing, that it had the effect of an election, that it was over 50% of the registered voters, have an ordinance that puts teeth into it.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, I'd like to say too, if you could figure out a way to.
I'm sorry, but I do think we need to vet that legally, because I'm just not sure how that works.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I'm tired of lawyers. I really am.
I know.
We have control. We should have control of our own frickin' town. These lawyers need to go.
How do you feel, Lee?
I'm sick to death of them. They should not be in charge of us. They're another minority, in my mind, a bad minority that's making it difficult to do anything.
Yeah, I have the same issue inside our corporation. Many times the lawyer doesn't even understand what we're trying to accomplish.
The lawyers should be told to go away. If it's supported by
you'd have to change the code, Lee.
No, then maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do that.
Get a lawyer to do that.
We should have one of our goals to tell lawyers to go away. That we have control of our own frickin' town.
Well, I guess we'll put it in our commercial development. There's no law offices.
I don't mind lawyers in general, unless they're being idiots. You can debate stuff until you're blue in the face. I'm sick to death of it. if a majority of the frickin' people agree that this is the way we want to go, the lawyer shouldn't have a say.
Well, the
I
lawyers
don't
are
think
supposed to
anyone's arguing with you about that, Lee. I do just want to say that there's just about 10 minutes left and we really have to go for the planning commission meeting.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
FYI.
I appreciate, Miranda, you're capturing what you've captured. I've got some things that are obviously going to have to be sorted out. And Ron, I already reached out to Catherine Corral to learn more. With downtown.
She'll share all that stuff with you. She keeps everything. And I
Great.
just want to
Awesome.
say, I'd sure like to see that Riverwalk go under the bridge, if that's even possible. That's come up many times. And
Wow.
then you'd have connectivity with the Riverwalk all the way down the north side of the creek and all the way up, right into the mountains.
And just so you know, Ron, we have done some investigation towards that. And it is possible. It's tricky and expensive, but it is possible.
Okay, this I'd like to hear more, Karen, but it won't be in this meeting. So essentially, if I hear you right, it would go under the existing bridge, under the highway, and it somehow would go towards the bridge, that pedestrian bridge that is not being used to the west. Yes?
Correct.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of fun. But I think the town square idea will capture people. And essentially it ties together the paths, it ties together a lot of the town's assets, and really leverages it. So yeah, we're down to I'm showing 6:46, which means we got 9 minutes.
I think we need to talk about this some more before next week, and even if we have to meet, separately to talk it over. But.
Yeah, I'm going to meet with Ron tomorrow afternoon. You're welcome to join us then if you want.
Okay, I don't know if I'll be around, but I'll certainly try. I'll reach out to Ron tomorrow or to you tomorrow to see when you're going to meet, when you're going to talk, and maybe one of you can get me in the conversation. Okay,
that sounds like it. Yeah, because I think we're getting there. I think I need to simplify it a bit. I can see stuff right off the top that I'm going to need to combine, but I think we'll be in a position to have everything done by the 30th.
I agree.
Anything else that okay, so we talked a bit about, yeah, the things that came to me after I wrote this afternoon were history, and I think we got the beginnings of that, leveraging the town's history. That I think we're killing two birds with one stone with that building that's falling apart that could help us with our transportation hub. And then the town square thing, when I thought about that after I got through it, consolidating this, and I think it's one of the more important things we can do.
I'll send that tomorrow.
Now, well, in the time that we got left, we went back and forth this morning about the parcels. Do we want to have at this point they're in private hands, all the parcels that are developable, and it's kind of arrogant to say that you're going to come up with a dream for somebody else's land. But do we want to do anything at this level of our planning to talk about those undeveloped parcels?
Well, I think that the goal of what we were trying to get at with the annexation, we're in an IGA. I think there's only 3 parcels I think that really make any sense. One of them is being developed right now. It's on the north side. It's north of Caribou Ridge, which is north of the elementary school, kind of near the rink. Yeah. And it's like 6 lots. I think they have town water. That would probably be if those people wanted to annex, I think we probably should annex that.
They do want to annex, Lee, and that was one of the groups when we were doing the, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the map I sent you guys.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that's marked as one of the areas that was part of a PPA that was
Right.
being looked at when we were looking. So that, along with, you were also mentioned the Evans property, the
Mhm.
Yeah,
Bobcat Ridge. And then you also mentioned the one next to Ridge Road. All three of those parcels, those property owners are interested in annexing into the town. And as you guys probably all know, that IGA is set to expire next March. So if it were to expire next March, then they would be able to go through, we would go to the statutory requirements for annexation, which means it would come to the planning commission. It would then go to the board of trustees, but it would not have to go through the planning board, the Boulder County Commissioner Planning Board, and then get approval by the commissioners, which is what
Mhm.
our current IGA requires. So I do
Yeah.
think some of those parcels are just sort of waiting. They're waiting to see what happens with that
Yeah.
IGA. Because the reality is, Lee, if that expires, anybody who's got land where I think it's a sixth of their border is contiguous to the town, they can
Mhm.
apply and ask for annexation.
That's
What's-
correct. We do annexation maps. They're relatively easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to show contiguity. I mean, I'm a person that believes in private property rights. I'm a surveyor. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what surveying is. I mean, private property rights. And so, my attitude is if they want to annex, they should be annexed.
What's the
Well, and they
the
still,
value?
they still
Yeah.
could be if they wanted to.
Yeah.
For instance, Bobcat Ridge went through the planning commission, then the board of trustees, then went through the Boulder County Commissioners process, went through their planning board, went all the way up to the county commissioners. And the county commissioners said, they didn't say no. They said, we want you to come back to us. And they had, I think, 26 items that
No.
had to be addressed. And
Yeah,
at that point, the applicant has chosen not to go back and is basically waiting to see what happens with either a revised IGA or if this IGA just lapses. Because then
Right.
it's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
and this is caused.
This IGA basically prevents any annexation, period, and it's a bad one. So I think everybody's just sitting and waiting for it to lapse. And that's,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the best thing that should happen.
I will tell you,
or-
Ron, if you guys want to know, there's 3 different opinions and it represents each one about a third of the population. There are people who believe we should actually extend it because they don't want to see any development because of wildlife, because of an environmental impact, because of the impact on our infrastructure. Probably about a third of them think we should just let it lapse. And then about a third say, you know what, we should create it with designated planning areas that both the county and the town have agreed on. So I'm just going to tell you, having gone through this process, there is not a consensus and you have
Okay.
3 very different opinions.
So that's, I heard 2/3. One says, says let it lapse. The other says work with come up with something that's more concise. What are the third of the population think?
Was to extend it just the way it
Okay.
is and to
Just the way it
prevent much in the way of development unless it's fully vetted, including the county. So
That's
we
kind of
did a lot,
interesting.
we
Like
did,
the
we did
planning.
lots of public forums and that is, I'm just telling you,
Wow.
that's why nothing was ever decided because
That's
there
helpful.
isn't a consensus.
Well,
That's helpful to know.
I don't know that there's a consensus. I wouldn't say it's a consensus. I would say that the people that are going to scream the loudest are what you're calling a consensus. And
Right.
and I think again, currently we should call the planning department the non-planning department. You know,
I think Lee, they actually suggested putting it to a vote, which is what
Okay.
Ron's suggesting.
Yeah.
Which might be a good way to deal with it. I think the reality though is everybody's just kind of accepting that it's going to lapse unless a bunch of people get in front of the board and say, let's do something about it.
It's interesting that the people that that didn't want to see development happen assume staying within the agreement would stop it, but the development happened anyway. All they're trying to do now is annex something that was already developed.
You know,
Right.
this is such a great conversation and we have got to go because we have got to
Okay.
do the
I
planning
know.
commission
I wish
meeting.
we could go on for, but we're going to continue tomorrow.
Okay, all right,
See you
good.
tomorrow.
Good.
All right.
It's a great
Good to see you all.
conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank
See
you.
ya. Take care.